Hey there. So today I'm excited to bring Gia here on the show and to talk about all of the many ways that she kind of rose to popularity in the last few years, or the last few months rather, with the post-election madness. So I'm just excited to have this conversation with you and hear about your spiritual story and everything that brought you here now.
Thank you. Excited to be here. It has been a whirlwind. But if you
Yeah,
look at any part of my journey since awakening, it's all been a whirlwind.
I'm sure. And so I don't remember when I started following you. It was maybe like in January or February, but I wasn't on TikTok and I'm really hardly on TikTok now, but I think I found you through YouTube. But I had friends reaching out to me like the days after the election because they were on YouTube and they were seeing the 3 a.m. club, the 4 a.m. club, and all of that stuff. And they're like, "Did you wake up at 3 a.m. on the?" I'm like, "Yes, I did. Of course, like, yeah." But I didn't realize like that it was a universal movement of like people like kind
Hmm.
of collaborating about their shared experiences like post-election. So
Hmm.
so
I
yeah,
didn't either.
yeah. I know it wasn't until you realize that all these people are like, yes, us too. So
Hmm.
I'm just curious to hear, wherever the conversation goes, but that's where my origin of connecting with you began was just in the months afterward, probably is after the inauguration. I don't remember the exact date that I found you, but I'm glad I did because like it's refreshing. I appreciate your honesty and like just your gifts and your attitude and your
Thank
activism.
you. Yeah, I have a unique blend of spirituality, healing, positivity, but grounded, realistic. We're not bypassing what's happening in the world. We're
Mhm.
addressing it and we're dealing with it. And that's how we facilitate change. We can't just fly on by. We've got to actually deal with what we're doing here, with what's going on here. So I think people really resonate with that message because it's not often talked about in spiritual circles. And I understand that and I get why, but I think people do find it refreshing of like, okay, here's someone who's living both in the real world and is open to the spiritual connection. And I think that's what we really need now.
Totally like a marriage of both. It's not just like the spiritual bypassing, like you said, or
Mhm.
putting your head in the sand. Like I don't do politics. It's like, well,
Mhm.
then you're not living here and you're not caring about humanity because politics.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, yeah. So you before the election, you were like channeling different like artists that have crossed over. Like, so I guess however you want to go there, like, do you want to explain like when you woke up? I know that you have like a background in like the Mormon faith. You live in Utah and it's
Mhm.
the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wherever you want to like just give us your origin.
Okay. So I will tell you the very briefest of Cliff's notes, like the highlights of how it unfolded, and then whatever, draws your attention will go in there. So yes, I was born and raised Mormon in a multi-generation Mormon family here in Utah. It's just the culture. It's what you do. It's who you are. So I never got the chance to opt in or out because the pressure of having doubts, not believing, living your life in a different way is so severe. It takes a strong person to really question that. But at the same time, I've always been intuitive and knowing, and I just never believed it. But it was balancing that pressure of, but it's what you do, but it's what the family does, but it's what everyone around me does. So it wasn't even in my mind that there could be another option. And so the thing that really drove my spiritual journey forward was mental health issues. I began having depressive episodes from age 9, which back in the 80s and 90s, that wasn't a thing. Kids' mental health was not a thing. It was just toughen up. You have no right to be sad, like get it together. Like that's old
Mhm.
school parenting. That's how it happened.
Right.
But that persisted and became so strong for so many years, the highs getting higher, the lows getting lower, that eventually in my 20s, I had a full nervous breakdown and I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which, this was 2004, which is like the diagnosis du jour. Like that was the trendy thing. And so it was in going that route, medications, doctors, therapy, the whole thing, doing everything by the book to work with this thing. It never got any better. In many cases, it got a lot worse. And there was still throughout all of this journey, this knowing that I'm not broken. I'm not sick. This isn't like I just knew that not only that the diagnosis wasn't correct, but that the whole framework of what was happening to me was not accurate and not applicable. And there was a reason I was the way that I was. And so eventually, this was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years into, well, 3 or 4 years into dealing with it that way, I finally was like, you know what? This isn't working for me. if it was gonna work, it would have worked by now.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm out. I just at the very least I was like, I need to make peace with being sad because I'm sad.
Yeah.
So it's like that's how I am. I need to make peace with that. And anyone who knows me on TikTok is like, what? Gia's sad? Because we'll get there. Anyway, so it was in making peace with these emotions that opened up this path of self-discovery to where I eventually discovered, oh dang, I'm not depressed at all. It turns out I'm incredibly intuitive and I'm an empath and I'm a healer and it just opened up and blossomed this whole path
And
of
what year?
discovery. What's that?
Like around 2012, maybe?
No, it was more, I'm trying to like reverse math. So 2004 was the diagnosis. I got married in 2007. So it was probably either 7, 8, 9, around there.
So my spiritual awakening happened around at the end of 2008, 2009. So it's just like interesting,
Okay.
like these like currents of energy kind of like move through,
Right,
you know.
right. And I always thought my formal awakening began in 2012. But
Hmm.
you're right, is that that was just when I realized it was a spiritual awakening. That's when I was like, oh, that's what this is.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was unfolding before in
Hmm.
this other way that I didn't see it until I look back and I was like, oh yeah, it was that journey of unbecoming what I was told I was
Right.
and doing that whole thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, in 2012 was the first time I learned about energy healing and this whole other new age kind of world. Because being born and raised Mormon, I was never really active or really into it, but that was the only framework I have for spirituality and belief, even though I didn't like it. It's
Hmm.
what I had. And so in 2012, as I began to learn more about that and explore, it accelerated very quickly. And that's when I really learned like, oh, like I learned what an empath was, and that changed everything. And then by learning that, I learned that empathy, clair empathy is a clair, like clairvoyance and clairaudience. And so following through that, I learned like, oh shit, I'm a healer. Like that's why I feel terrible because I'm feeling people's stuff and I'm healing it for them. And so it was that realization that I was like, all right, if that's what I'm doing, I either have to figure out how to stop, number one, or how to do it intentionally so that it's not just like a 24/7 I'm destroyed my life kind of thing. And
Right.
so that's what led me to open up my practice as an energy healer. And I worked with the emotion code. And it was within literal weeks. I don't even think it was a month. It might have been 2 months, but I think it was literal weeks of opening. Spirit started coming through in my session. And it was so dramatic and undeniable. I just was like, oh, I guess I'm a medium. It was so like, oh shit. Again, all these things were like, oh, I came locked and loaded, but I didn't know. It's like these things were time released and they would just suddenly pop out. And so it was through, just keeping up with all of these things that kept opening up and kept blossoming and then discovering, oh, when I'm delivering these messages from spirit guides and I'm doing it really quickly, I'm channeling. So maybe I should try channeling. And so all of these different things.
Hmm.
And so at a certain point in this journey, I was trying to stay within the Mormon framework. And in the very least, I thought, there are so many people in Mormonism that need these greater truths. So I'm
Hmm.
going to like stay in the framework where they're comfortable. But then if they want to come over and play in my sandbox, then, we'll go there. But at a certain point, trying to be compatible in those two things, it was just no longer sustainable. And I had to make that choice to leave. Am I going to stay and keep a lid on my development? Or am I going to say yes to me and discover who all I can be? So I said yes to me. I left the church and everything has just exploded since then.
Yeah. Um, when you were saying about like, the mental health and the diagnosis and all of that, like something I was just reading recently, and it's an idea I've heard before, and I love it, that like in Native Americans, like there wasn't such thing as mental health. There was community, so it was recognized. It was like, that emotional, spiritual kind of like imbalance or whatever. So like if you had the right community to kind of support you at that time, it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
have been like that label or that branding or that
Mm-hmm.
or the stigma and all of that comes with it. So
Yeah.
it's nice to know that other people have figured this shit out. but
Yeah.
the paradigms that we might have been raised in, don't reflect that or even give room for that.
Yeah.
So,
And a lot of that is what, gives me so much anger about organized religion because they're so concerned with their framework and their truth that they can't pull back and minister to the individual and what they're going through. They just try to force the individual to conform and to
mhm,
be better and do better. Well, if you're struggling, it's because you're sinning. There's all these narratives.
mhm,
When our ancestors knew how to handle it to such a degree that there wasn't, the catastrophe and mental health that we're seeing now.
Hmm.
But one aspect of, tribal culture, and not necessarily, First Nations, North American, but all cultures around the world, when you go back far enough into the tribal communities, those communities that practiced shamanism around the world, the shaman there's one shaman per tribe. And the tribes are maybe, I don't know, 30 to 50 people, give or take, depending on the culture. And once a generation, as the shaman would become old, the new shaman would be born. And the way they recognize that shaman is in adolescence, they had what we now consider to be mental health issues, whether it's, some sort of schizophrenia or depression or not being here in the present world. And that's how they would know they are here now. And that child would leave their family and live with the shaman and be raised and taught the ways of the shaman. So when the old shaman passed away, the new one would be prepared. And when I learned about that, that's what made my whole life finally make sense. I was like, it's me. That's me. And so giving myself over to this truth that I'm not broken, I'm gifted. And as soon as I learn how to use my gifts, I can then be of service to others and I won't be having the drawbacks of these severe issues. And I mean, that's why I say, like, people who know me on TikTok is like, I just get these giggle fits and I can't stop laughing. And I am truly joyful, like, all the time. And that just shows the journey I've been on to go from where I could not control these emotions. I spent weeks in bed being, catatonically depressed, to now I'm just like joyful all the time. Because, like you said, that framework of mental illness might not be accurate, might not be true. And so I've been able to live my life in such a way that I'm outside of that framework. I've worked on it with other tools, other circumstances, support, all the things, and it's no longer a factor in my life and hasn't been for, I mean, my son's 14. That was the last time I was on medication, is postpartum. And
Hmm.
so I've been, perfectly healthy doing my thing ever since then.
That's cool. And then when did the angle of channeling like crossed over celebrities? Like that was like a thing that was like the foundation of your business in the more recent years, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when did all that start to come together?
So I formally started my business in 2016 as a healer emotion code practitioner, and then it just evolved over time. When I realized I was a channel, it was early 2019, and I had been I'd been going in and out of corporate jobs, and the healing would be on the side. And then it was this battle of like, how am I going to focus my life? Is this going to be a full-time thing or always a side hustle? And so it was in that battle around the same time I was realizing that, like I said, when I would receive the message from spirit guides, I learned that if I just kind of like relax and word vomit, just like don't think about it, just like let it happen, that I
Hmm.
was channeling. It began as like I would listen, I would hear, I would feel the message, and then I would deliver. Well, I stopped that middle process and I just let her rip. So
Hmm.
that's when I realized, like, okay, I'm a channel. So at the same time, these career issues were happening, and I had to make that decision. Are you going to keep ignoring the call, or are you going to do this full time? So when I
Hmm.
fully and completely committed, I will leave the corporate world. I will leave the financial stability of that. I'm going to do this full time, but I have conditions. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. Because I was doing the whole, I like to joke and call it white girls with crystals, healer Barbie. Like I was doing it the way that like most people do it, but that wasn't really authentic to me. And so I wanted to do it my way. And I wanted to focus on being a channel, not a healer.
Hmm.
So it was in that space where I was meditating one day and I was like, all right, if I could birth my most exciting, most authentic expression of this, what would that look like to me? And, it was kind of silly things of like, well, I want to swear and I want to like wear leather jackets. And I just want to be who I am and be this like punk rock weirdo who like also happens to be a channel. So as I was in that space, I started to be self-conscious about, oh, I have this brand and people know me as this. And what are people going to think about this like potty mouthed healer? Are they going to like, this whole thing? And in that moment, I suddenly thought of David Bowie. And I was like, when he was ready to retire Ziggy Stardust, he didn't say, oh, well, the fans really love it. And this is how I got famous. I probably should keep going. No, he was like, no, I'm done with it. I want to try something else. Fuck it. I'm moving on. And
Hmm.
so it was in that space, he came through. He came through, and it was one of the most, he's just coming through it now. I feel. It was one of the most electric experiences of my life where he just burst through in all his glory. And he said loud and clear, if you're not living your life as a work of art, then why are you even living? And what are you living for?
Wow, it makes me want to cry.
I know. It was so profoundly life
Wow,
changing.
that's
It
awesome.
said everything. And I was like, well, okay. Question answered. I'm going to do it my way.
Right.
And so that's when I began to concoct this other experience. Now, I thought that was a one and done with him. Like, very cool. I somehow, pierced the veil and was able to have this experience. He kept coming back every single day, until I was realizing, like, all right, this is a thing. It's not just like I happen to, because I know lots of psychics. He's very busy. He's like an archangel in that way. He'll come to anybody who's paying attention. But I wasn't even seeking him. He just kept coming.
Yeah.
And so I was finally like, all right, what's the deal? Like, this is awesome. I love it. Yes, please, and thank you. But what's the deal? Like, what's going on? And he brought to me the opportunity to bring through more of his famous friends and to build a body of work around this idea of living your life as art and blending the spirituality with the artistic process as a way of basically ascension, of like furthering human expansion.
I mean,
And so
God,
that,
he was such a pioneer. Like what a
oh,
light
absolutely.
showing up in that time frame. We watched some, I forget what the name of the movie was, but it was like a documentary of sorts from maybe a year or so ago, and we were just it was awesome. Like I wish I remember the name of it. I'd tell you to watch
Moon
it.
Age Daydream, I bet.
What's that?
Moon Age Daydream.
Oh yes, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was fun. It was great.
Yeah. And that's when you can see, if people know him from certain theatrics or certain weird periods of his life, they're missing the
Hmm.
profound genius that he is, and not just in music. He
Right.
was a genius. He was so embodied as a spirit. He just all the things. I can never say enough good about him. He's an incredible human. So not only have I been taking down his words and the words of his famous friends that he brought through, I published a book that's all these friends. I have another book that's waiting that's just him. Um, but now that I have kind of, taken a little detour and I'm doing something else right now, always with the intention of getting back more to that, I can see how, I was raised by Bowie in that way, how I have learned to walk my own path of embodiment. I really do work more like an artist than a psychic. I am more embodied. I bring it within me, and then whatever I want to create based on what they share with me is what I create. I'm not a passive messenger, I'm an active co creator.
Hmm.
And so, as much as I like to see that body of work as for artists, that's what I was doing before the election. I was working with living artists to connect them with their mentors beyond the veil. And you could book a session, and I would channel Bowie and Prince and Freddie Mercury and these incredible people. Um, but now I can see that this is applicable to so much more than people who identify as artists. It's an entirely different way of living as an embodied spirit soul human.
That's really, really super awesome.
Yeah.
I know I was telling her before we hit record about an experience I had with David Bowie after he passed, and friends of mine, we all had different songs in our head. And the one friend kind of was like, wait a minute, pay attention to the lyrics and pay attention to what song is in your head and how each of them were applicable to our own journey where we were at that point in time. And then I had another moment where I had him and Freddie Mercury in the car with me as I was crying. It was like the week he died, and hearing Under Pressure.
Mm.
Right. Yeah. So that was really,
Mhm.
really, really cool. So it's neat that we have an overlap in spirit there.
Yeah. Well, and I find that he's really great at bringing the right people to me at the right time.
Mhm.
And when I was doing those kinds of sessions, I would always get people who were like, "Oh my gosh, he's been talking to me too, and I thought I was crazy, and then I found you, and I realized I'm not." And to help them realize, like, yeah, this is a thing, and not just
Yeah.
him, but so many people like Freddie Mercury, like all these people,
Mhm.
it's a thing. It's a thing. They are coming back repeatedly through as many people as will have them. It's an all hands on deck on both sides of the veil for this transition that we're experiencing. And so, how friggin' cool has it been that I got to have a part of my awakening be like, oh, I'm just chatting with Carrie Fisher today. And then, like, next week it's Frank Sinatra and all these really amazing people who've come through to share their lives. And some of them have been it's been very heartbreaking. They had tragic ends or difficult lives.
Mhm.
And so they shared themselves in really raw, vulnerable ways. So you get the whole spectrum of like,
Mhm.
just what life was like for them as a human, as well as now that they're crossed over and they're on the other side, they have the full cosmic perspective and just weaving that together. It's just been so, and so I wrote that book. In fact, I'm going to grab it. It's right here. I knew I should have had it with me, but it's backwards, I'm sure. Messages
Huh.
from the Stars.
Yeah.
It's a collection of 25 channeled spirit interviews with these different people. And it took me, I don't know, 3 years to write
Hmm.
because I was being changed by them as they came through. And so I know I wrote this book, but like it's a really good book. And I really want people who are interested in like evolving spiritually in a unique way, not only the new age way, not only the religious way. Here's another path if you're
Right.
interested.
Yeah. I know it's like a life guide with experts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So then what happened? Where did like was it just leading up to the election that you started talking about like national politics on your page, or was it the election itself?
It was the election itself. I in my personal life have been very passionately progressive. You know, in my teens and 20s, I was really involved in a lot of like music, counterculture movements. I always say I'm an old punk rocker, very like anti-establishment, fight the man, like that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
So it's always been something I've been personally invested in and I care a lot about. And so this election just really felt, we knew how high the stakes were. So I was privately very invested, keeping up. And that night, when I had the 4 a.m. club experience, I was able to plug it into the context of ascension and evolution. And, the timelines were trying to do this thing. And that's when I had my profound experience and was given, insights about what this means and what's going to happen. And so I just posted it even before I had the experience. There were 2 videos, election night, or maybe election night, and then I don't know, where I was talking about, no matter what happens, we're on the divine feminine timeline. We can't get off it. It is rising. We are moving into matriarchy, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. The energy has supported this for so many years. That's where we're going, and we're going to have this, no matter how messy it is, no matter how much we have to fight. And so then when I had the experience, and it was like, oh, we're anchoring the timeline, and we're doing the thing, and we like and then to learn how many other thousands of people, potentially millions of people, had a similar experience, I was like, this is completely unprecedented. I've never in my existence heard of a collective experience, a shared experience like this happening.
What was the experience that you're referring to? Just so people.
So that's right. Sorry, context. So I, like many people, going to bed on election night was filled with dread and fear and anxiety, not only about how the outcome would be, but then what would happen to us if that outcome stood, if a certain candidate won. And so I spent most of the night calling in spirit, calling in the directions, working with my guides, help us right the ship, help us anchor this divine feminine timeline. Don't let it go off the rails. Don't let it be hijacked it was from a very personal place. And I eventually did fall asleep, but I was woken up at 4 a.m. And one of my personal roles on this earth is to anchor energy. So there are all kinds of energies, light, solar flares, things that are coming to earth to facilitate our transformation, both humans and the whole earth and everything that lives on her. And so I have this unique experience over the years of I physically feel them in my body and they're doing different things and then I anchor them into the earth. I never talked about it publicly because it's just like a thing I do. Um, so that when I woke up at 4 a.m., those energies came in to the point where I felt like my whole body was on fire. Like these energies were just searing through me, bursting through me. And I saw a vision of Kamala Harris being sworn in. And she's wearing this purple pantsuit and she's, smiling radiantly, this beautiful experience. And at some point, I received the information once the energy waves died down. I received the information that it's done. We did it. We anchored the timeline. And so then when I got on TikTok the next day and I was like, y'all, I had this experience and it was totally crazy. And like, I know things look really scary out there, but there's reason to hope, there's reason to believe that there might be, there's something else afoot. And in sharing that, that post blew up immediately. I mean, 500,000 views, I think, is what it has at this point. and the comments, and because I only had like 7,000 followers, I didn't think it would go very far. And so I was reading all the comments, and they just kept pouring in, thousands and thousands of people saying, I had the same thing. The thing that blows my mind is how many people had the same dreams. So the
Hmm.
vision that I had was a dream that many people had, exact same thing. There were also people who saw the electoral college votes and they were flipping from red to blue to red to blue. There
Hmm.
were people who saw numbers and like the electoral college scale. And there were people who heard the same songs in their dreams. There were also people who heard spirits, their loved ones, or angels saying it's going to be okay. So there were things across the spectrum, and yet we all kind of experienced some version of the same thing.
Hmm.
And so in learning, this was a widespread thing. And then I was getting tagged in other people's videos, and all the psychics are tuned into it. And then we're like, holy shit, this is really a thing. I was like fully invested. I'm all in. And I was so open. I don't know what you experienced, but the veil was so thin as to be non existent. I was receiving insights, downloads, information for like the entire week around the clock. I was like awake. So finally, I was like, Spirit, I'm going to go into psychosis. You have to slow this down. And so, anyway, this whole experience just rerouted me completely. And because I suddenly had this, going from 7,000 followers in 6 months, I now have 100 almost 120,000
Wow.
followers.
Wow.
So I just kind of like burst me onto the scene. And I'm like, okay, I got all these people. They're terrified. Some of them are newly awakened. They didn't believe in God. They didn't believe in angels. They didn't believe none of it. And suddenly they're awake. And I'm like, all right, dial it down, backtrack. How do I help these people?
Yeah.
And so I reverted back to my skills as a healer and the things I've learned. And I've been focusing my time on, all right, let's teach people shadow work. Let's give them the big picture about ascension, but let's break it down and make it simple. So I've been completely in the service of this experience and this new audience that's come to me looking for guidance in this really scary time.
Wow. That's really cool. I know, because it's like a big undertaking. It's like a large responsibility to have people going, what do I do? Or,
Yeah.
just all of the basic foundational things. So
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I've just appreciated watching, just hearing you say the things that I feel like I know and feel as well. So that's why I find you so refreshing, because I'm like there, with you. But it's just nice
Mhm.
to see somebody just sharing the information as they see it and feel it. And I had found these other girls that they were kind of keeping me sane for the meanwhile between like November and when I found you, but I felt more aligned with you. So it's just been, because in my core, I was like, she's the clear winner. And I know she's like, I know what truth feels like.
Mhm.
And I went to bed confident that she was going to win. I didn't have any fears,
Right.
because I know what truth feels like. And actually I pulled cards that night. I went to pull one card, but two popped out, and it was Nine of Cups, and then the second card was Judgment. And I remember being like, hmm. So it's like, and then
That's a weird combo too.
yeah, and but this Nine of Cups, like, I'm not like super duper like I don't have tarot memorized in my brain, but this particular deck was very celebratory. It's a Light Seers deck, and so she
Mhm.
has like her back like this, and there's like all these cups of celebration kind of around her. So it felt like a clear yes to me, like just looking at that card. But then the Judgment confused me. I was like, hmm. So you're like,
Yeah.
so it's like, yeah, it will come down to like, I like in retrospect, it's like, well, she is the winner. It's just that there's some fucking shit that had to come between her and winning. So
Exactly.
whatever. But it was very it was a tough time, because you're going, no, this can't be, 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 this
Hmm.
can't be.
Hmm.
And then just watching everybody being like they're feeling the same thing.
Hmm.
And it's been such a long time, and I'm hoping at any time. And I just like that you also have like that underlying faith underneath it all. It's not like you're defeated by it, you're just like
Hmm.
delivering it how it seems. So
Hmm.
then now you're just tuning into the energies of whatever's going on. Like I'm like, I can't even think of, I'm like, I watch you all the time, but I'm like, I can't think of anything in particular right now. But like, so you're just watching the news. Are you watching the news directly? Are you watching
No,
people summarize the news? Or are you just picking up on the energies?
a little of both. I don't watch the news. I'll watch Rachel Maddow
Right.
clips.
Yeah.
Um, but I get tagged in, we have such an incredible community in the 4am Club. I get tagged in some really great stuff. I've connected with some really incredible creators who really are in the know, and lots of experts and analysts. And so outside of mainstream narratives, I feel like I'm getting underneath and into what's happening, as well as that's combined with things that Spirit has shown me. So what will often happen is I will be tagged in a video or a piece of data or a something, and then that data, like you said, you can feel truth.
Mm-hmm.
It will trigger a knowing, and then I will get, because my primary clair is claircognizance, where I just know. It's a lot of mental understanding
Mm-hmm.
flowing in. And it's so funny, if I do these monthly events where it's called What's Coming Next, and I do it at the end of the month, and we're just tuning into the energies of the next month, and I'm going in totally blind. I don't have anything prepared. I treat it just like a group psychic reading, and I look insane because when these downloads come in, I'm very somatic in my feeling. I'm like, oh, and I'm bouncing, and I'm like, holy shit, because I just get this lightning bolt. And then I'm like, okay, okay. And then I have to unpack it. So it's been this combination of things I've seen, plus reading the energies, plus what spirit has given me and shown me, that gives me the narrative of what's going on. And really how I look at it as, this is a framework for how to view what's happening. And what I find so fascinating is that I put it in the framework of ascension, because that's something that I'm engaged in and I'm passionate about and I know enough about that I can then teach it. But if you look in other frameworks, like if you look at the fourth turning or extinction burst, or pendulum swings when we had a black president and now all the white supremacy stuff is coming back in response, like however you choose to see this, whether from purely a worldly perspective or a spiritual perspective, it's really the same story. And so that does give me hope throughout. And I don't want to sound like a traitor to my message or to the 4am Club, but like in my soul, I do not care how long it takes. I don't, because I understand, like, to overturn. I do believe that he cheated. I have seen so much data to prove that the numbers were fraudulent. That is rock solid. You cannot convince me otherwise.
Right.
But despite that, people are like, why is it taking so long? And people are getting hurt, and we can't take much more of this. And I know in my soul, this is serving so many profound spiritual purposes. And Spirit has told me it takes as long as it takes. And
Right.
I have peace letting it ride out, because I understand, when you do year upon year of readings and you talk to people's spirit guides, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you get to avoid pain. That's not how it works. We have to go through our lessons. We have to have our karmic reckoning. We have to have rude awakenings. We have to do shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as this takes is as long as it takes, but every single thing that happens is serving a larger purpose. As uncomfortable as it is, it's still serving a purpose. So I'm in it for the long haul, however long it takes. It absolutely will not take 4 years, if only for the fact that he's not going to live. He is like fading fast. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm totally
I
confident.
participated in your March and your April call, and I forget what happened that was so powerful in the last call, but I remember it was powerful. I'm terrible at retaining things, Like I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was amazing. I remember it was great. But it was like, oh, it was I think it was something with Kamala where you were channeling like her. uh,
Yeah.
So that was really
Ooh,
powerful.
I have chills again.
Yeah.
It was totally unexpected. Like I say, I'm just in and I just
Yeah.
follow the energy, and I get what I get. It was so powerful because at first I was being shown what will happen when there's a revelation of he's either that he's cheated or he's been removed, or what, it was the energy immediately after removing him.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more I was tapped into that, it was like this force just filled me and blew through me. And I began channeling words that were so beautiful and so powerful, and was told that is what she will say.
Oh, and
That
wasn't
is a
it right
speech.
before that women's conference and she said some of the things and was wearing the same outfit, right? Wasn't that like
That was a different one. That was a
okay.
different one. So that was in my March preview event. So the one I'm talking about is the one for May that was just like 2 weeks ago. So the one that happened in March is I heard I told you so. And
Mm-hmm.
then I heard her standing in this, or I saw her. She's in a tan suit and a white blouse, and she's behind a curtain. And then she steps out, and and so then what happened a few weeks later, she was in an event. She was wearing that same freaking outfit, and there was footage of her behind the curtain waiting to go on. And in that speech, she said, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I was so blown away because, as a psychic, I'm never quite sure if what I'm seeing is literal or metaphorical because
Right.
visions convey a meaning. And people are always criticizing me on TikTok, like, why are you shocked when you get it right? I'm not shocked that I get it right. I'm tickled and I'm delighted that what I saw was literal. And
Yeah.
I'm experiencing this just along with everybody else. So I'm
Right.
just like thrilled when it finally comes through. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I know it's so exciting. It really is super cool. And then you became friends with you've created like a little network of fellow influencers, right? Where you like consult with each other and whatever. Like Sam, I think I found her at the same time as you. So it's just been such a relief, you know?
Yeah,
I know I'm sure you like you feel like a responsibility probably now that you have all these people like waiting on you, like, but you're not going to perform inauthentically. You'll deliver
right,
the message if you have something. It's not like,
right,
yeah.
right. Yeah, it's both this like I feel more the responsibility I feel is in being ethical, which
Hmm.
is who I would be even without responsibility. Like I'm not a dishonest person,
Right.
but realizing that I have such a large audience and people are across the board in both their emotional state and their understanding of spirituality, it's a challenge in like feeling into, and that's why, working with spirit is actually beneficial here because I don't have to physically know. I can feel the energy and then I can ask spirit, okay, what do they need? Where are we at today? And so I have help in delivering an appropriate message and delivering it in a way that's going to be most appropriate for those who see it. But this aspect of community, both among the followers, like I've gotten to know people. I see my regulars, I know them by name. It's such an exciting experience. And then to connect with these other creators, oh my gosh. So like I've been, a solo entrepreneur for all these years. And now I have like, it's almost like having coworkers and like I was just on the phone with Nina this morning, Nina, your witchy healer. And yeah, I talked to Sam, I talked to Ethical Psychic, like, and I've made friends with people who are on the more political side, like Gretchen's Got Questions and Raw Cognizance and Kiki Conspiracy. Like I'm part of this crew and we support each other as leaders. And then it makes it easier to support a community when I see like the unity and we're all in this together. And it's just been an incredible experience.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure. I had a thought just fly in and out of my head so fast it's gone. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just amazing, and I'm so excited that you can share this with the world because it's so important and it's so needed. Oh, I was wondering also like the energy clearing, because like I had just posted, I was like trying to grow my own reach and like, all right, I guess I'll participate and like put videos of myself out there, even though it's less comfortable for me. And like I could feel the energy like pooling on me, like, at my feet, like by the end of the day. And I'm just like, like it's so weird to like, like I didn't leave the house. Like usually I deal with clients one-on-one or I have classes and workshops and things. So when I'm in work, I'll come home and I'll clear my energy. But to feel like I need to clear my energy when I haven't even left the house is really strange. So I'm sure you must
Mhm.
have to do some kind of protection work or clearing work on yourself to keep yourself not so cluttered with other people's energies.
Well, yes and no. And number one is like, yeah, I always have energy hygiene and I do, my grounding and clearing practices just as like general, this is how I live
Maintenance.
my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually don't, this is kind of a rogue opinion. I don't believe that you need protection. I have found
Yeah, I
as,
don't do protection as much as I do clearing. I don't do protection
yeah,
unless I'm going on a train or going to like a family event or something like that,
right,
where I
right.
feel like I
If
need.
I'm right, where I'm like, ugh, I don't want to feel this. It's because like a lot of people when they say that they are in a paradigm of I can be attacked, I can be hurt, I need to hide. And that's I don't feel that way.
No.
I have been hurt, sure, but like I also stubbed my toe when I bumped into the cat. Like I don't have like this dramatic response that a lot of people in the community have. But then what I was saying about, I was raised by Bowie. I've been taught under his wing and all these incredible artists. I work more as an artist than I do as a psychic. And what I mean by that is if you look at footage of Freddie Mercury at Live Aid or Bowie in any one of his things, there are certain people of us, they call it the artist soul type. Now that's not exactly like a binary, you either are or you aren't, but it's again a framework to help you understand. So there are certain people whose energy systems are meant to take in the energy of other people. That's how we function. A negative connotation of that would be energy vampire, where people who just want to feed and drain. This is like that, but separate. So that's how I'm able to feel into the audience of 100,000 people. Granted, not all of them are active on my page, but still, I can feel into the energy of that and then take it in. And that's what fuels what I do.
Hmm.
In the same way that Freddie Mercury on stage was playing that crowd of a million people like a fiddle.
Yeah.
It's a special type of skill to be able to take in the energy of that many people, be able to hold it within your body, and then be able to use it to transform it to create something new. That's what artists do. And so, working with these artists for so many years, I'm now like, oh, like Bowie has told me, you don't have to publish the book. You don't have to do this body of work. This has been for you. And I was like, okay, well, that's amazing, but like, what a waste. I have this great body of work. But now that I'm working with this large an audience, I get it now. And he was preparing me to expand me energetically so that I can physically withstand. Because you don't become famous overnight. You don't go from playing a little club show with 20 people to standing on stage at Live Aid. Your
Right.
body physically can't do that.
Right.
And so I've been working with these artists over the past 6 years, and now I'm in this place where I'm like, oh, I could be in person with 100,000 people, and I could take all of it, and I could radiate something back to them that is big enough for 100,000 people to receive.
That's pretty great.
Yeah,
Didn't realize he was coaching you for that.
I didn't either. I mean, there was this whole thing because as a trans medium, I can bring them through in their personality and their voices. It's a very specific subset of channeling that I just friggin' love. It's so awesome. And so in my mind, I had this career where I want to get on stage and channel Bowie, and there's lights and fog machines, and it's like this rock star fantasy of like, again, that whole thing of like, if I'm going to do this, I want to do it my way. And I'm going to do this in a way that's artistic and creative and like blows the socks off of anyone who sees it because it's just what I want to do. And so I thought that's what we were gearing up to. And I still believe I will get there and I will do that. But I'm seeing right now that it's not just that.
Hmm.
This is building me as a person to be, I don't even know what the word is. I can hold the energy of that many people and then send back exactly what they need to receive. And there's two ravens outside my window.
Of
Those
course.
are my totem animals. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been coming around for a while for me as well.
Yeah.
I know last night I did a sound healing and I felt like the Morrigan, and I was like,
Mm.
know that, but I don't know it so well, but I know it. And then it's like, the Celtic goddess of war and like other and many other things. I don't even have my mind wrapped around it, but I saw the Raven and I heard her name, and then I'm like, oh, she's represented.
Mm.
I'm like, duh, you know,
Yeah.
it's just
You
really
know,
cool.
it's so crazy is I've never really worked with her either. I'm aware of the goddesses and the
Mhm.
archetypes or whatever, but I've never really worked with them like some people do. She came to me 2 days before the election and in a dream, and I was like you, when you hear her, you see her, and you're like, oh, she's there. So I did some ritual work and I tuned in and I channeled the message, and I thought in my mind like this is now an opportunity, just like with Bowie. He came through, and then I had this course of study with him. She came through. Now I can do this course of study with her. But looking back now, and especially reading what I channeled of her, she was preparing me for that, for the 4 a.m. club, plain
Right.
and simple. And then I hear from other people in the community too how many of these goddesses, Hecate and Kali, and like the dark goddesses,
Oh
are
yeah.
really helping us wield that sort of vengeance.
It's pretty awesome. I know I had a whole thing with Kali over the summer last year, and Raven was crazy. Like it was like it was neat to just watch it, like the parallels, everyone, the overlapping messages that we're all receiving, and
Mhm.
it's just amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this is, we've been talking a while, so we should wrap it up. But like, I'm just so grateful. Is there anything else? Like, I know, are you having another? You said it was April that you did the thing. I didn't think you have one in May yet, or did you have one? It was the first week in May that you had another channeling thing, or is that at the end of the month that you'll be doing it?
So I usually do the What's Coming Next event a couple
Yeah.
days before the new month. So
Okay.
last couple days of the month. I
Okay.
do keep all of the recordings, even clear back as March when I started doing them. They're still applicable to now because so much of the guidance is about ascension and transformation and healing. So I do at the end of the month, I do a What's Coming Next group preview. And then usually mid-month, I do a more specialized event, something either I feel called to do or I want to explore, or it's a healing circle, just whatever feels right, like what we're ready for or what I want to express.
And tomorrow you're recording, and I actually just signed up for it this morning, the Divine Feminine one, but this podcast will be out after that. But what do you know is on the docket for that? Are you just opening up to whatever?
Listen, I'm very nervous that I know nothing.
It doesn't matter what you have
Usually,
to know. That's the thing. It's like you just open your mouth and it comes out. So
exactly, exactly. I mean, usually I have at least some sort of an outline or an understanding. I have nothing. So today I'm gonna make time tonight to really tune in. But I also think I'm going to be flying blind. I think they want me to do the bulk of it channeled.
right,
So usually what I do with events is I've done a couple of different channeling events. I channeled the Galactic Federation, I've channeled Collective Cosmic Consciousness. And usually what I do is the first like 40 minutes or so, I kind of talk, teach, give an introduction, set the context, go into different, what are timelines? Like it's themed sort of. And then for the next 20 to 30 minutes, I channel. But I feel like this will be, if not completely channeled, pretty darn near close,
mm,
which
yeah,
is why they haven't given me what's going to come because they
mhm,
don't want me to get too lost in what's Gia going to say. They want me to just show up and let them come through. I
yeah.
don't even know who. I
I know.
don't know who.
There's so many. There's so many. I know.
I know.
I just went to a Divine Feminine event. I don't know if you know who Sarah Jenks is, but she's like a Divine Feminine teacher, right? So she had an event in Boston 2 weeks ago, and that was epic and just beautiful. And so I wonder if Mary Magdalene or like Bridget, like the Kuan Yin, like almost like
Yeah.
basics, or are you gonna have like some obscure ones? Like it'll be interesting. Or if
Yeah.
it's just be a collective.
I mean, just the way my channeling ability is, I can do both people, like individual personalities, and that personality comes through. Like I have channeled Mary Magdalene, I've channeled who else for different groups and different things,
Mhm.
but being able to channel the message as a collective is a really powerful way. And something else I can do, like when I was doing I called them celebrity spirit guide sessions, I will go in trance and here's Bowie and he's doing a thing, but then also here comes Prince. And so I can pop out of Bowie and pop in Prince. And, it's like I'm what's the word, directing traffic.
Right.
Like what? Well, hold on. Now here comes Frida Kahlo wants to say a thing.
It's great.
Um, so I don't know if we're going to get specific ones that want to come
Yeah,
through or
it
a
doesn't
collective
matter.
or
It'll be great, whatever it is, and it'll be what everyone needs to hear.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'll be there. Or
Awesome.
actually, I might be catching the recording. I might be driving at that time, but either way, I'm excited to watch it whenever I do. Um,
Awesome.
but yeah, so and your handle is Gia Prism if people want to look for you, right?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, tell
Yep.
me about the Prism thing.
The Prism. Okay, so Bowie gave me this name, and all of my healing work was under my personal name. And I was actually kind of arguing with him one day. When I say he came back every day, we were like talking all day, like it's just always there. And I'm chatty and he's chatty, it works. So I was kind of arguing with him a bit about using a stage name because I was like, listen, my name is my life and everything I've worked for, and it's my history. And I was very emotionally attached. And I was like, I don't want to use a pseudonym. I'm proud of who I am and who I'm becoming. And he just very plainly said, oh, you'll use a stage name, and that name is Gia Prism. And I was like, oh, and like when Ziggy Stardust gives you a name, you're like, okay, thank you. But it was so perfect because I had been using Prism to explain to my clients. I don't do private sessions anymore, but when I would do sessions, I would tell, before the session, I'm like, listen, I function as a prism. I'm here as the vessel. Spirit comes in. I don't have to consciously know what to give you. It's going to come through. And I don't know how this will look. I might start channeling. I might talk to your guides. We might heal. Like, I truly don't know what's going to happen. But I always, and there's the raven again. But as that prism, I trust that if you need pink or you need green or you need a little of both, like you're going to get what you're going to get. So when he said that, I was like, oh, and that sounds kind of dope. All right. And then when I looked up Gia, Gia means light of God. And it was so beautiful and so perfect. And I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm in. I love it.
That's great. That's great. So your name isn't even Gia. It's just that he said Gia.
Oh,
Oh, that's so
yeah.
funny. I just figured it was
But
Gia and then Prism was the
yeah, no,
stage
my
name.
name is not Gia. But what's interesting is that initially when he gave me that name and he was teaching me a lot about persona as a way to, because I can keep who I am as a person and just be
Right.
like the mom and the whatever. And then I could step into this persona like he did with Ziggy or the Thin White Duke or whoever he was. So that was my initial plan of I'm going to use this name and I'm going to be this rock star and it's going to be this, and I can step into it and then I could step out and just be mom and like, run the errands and like whatever. But what has happened instead is that I really have become Gia. And Gia has become, rather than this sort of untouchable Lady Gaga like figure, Gia has become more grounded and approachable, and people relate to who I am. And so I've been able to both become her and she's become more of me. And so there really is no separation anymore between Gia and who I am as a person. I can ratchet it up when I'm Gia,
Mhm.
but it's just been this beautiful way of like accepting who I am in all of my, magical eccentricity and my kookiness and my, wounds and imperfections. And it's just been a really beautiful journey.
That's awesome. And I love that you have disco balls around. And so does Sam. And like, and I do at my work, it's just, it's like,
Oh,
and plants. I don't know if you got more plants, like if I've seen other plants in your other videos, but like, I know
yeah.
that Sam has some plants too. It's like plants and balls. We have that in common.
It's a thing. I mean, first of all, it's just fun. We need
Right.
more fun.
And
Spirituality
it's
has
so
been so
pretty. Yeah.
sacred. And they're pretty. But then as that like metaphor of with the disco balls, I have little prisms hanging. It's like we can refract and we don't have to work so damn hard. Just let spirit come in and do a thing. And we can dance and be silly and imperfect and swear and do all the things. And it doesn't make me less of a mystic. I can
Right.
still hold
Right.
that divine light.
Yeah. I like that grounded spirituality. I mean, that's kind of my thing too. So well, I
Oh,
appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and my audience. And I look forward to seeing whatever you put out next because I'm a loyal viewer.
oh, I love it. I love it. Well, we're excited to see what happens Wednesday because I don't know.
Right? We don't know.
You don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be good. It always is.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you for having me. This has been
Sure.
fun.